Okay, so someone's been hitting the books and the screens, huh? Wine study guides, videos. Looks like we're going deep on this one.
Definitely more than just red or white this time. This is someone looking to really get into wine.
Yeah, I think we can safely say we're aiming for a level of wine knowledge that goes beyond the casual sipper here. So like consider this deep dive your crash course, getting you ready to confidently approach any bottle like a pro, basically.
Right, and to do that, got to start with the fundamentals, right? The systematic approach to tasting. Think of it kind of like a roadmap. It guides you through the four key stages: appearance, nose, taste, and then that overall conclusion.
Oh, I like that. A roadmap for our senses.
Yeah.
Okay, so first impressions matter, right? Appearance. What are we looking for?
Well, the intensity of the color. Is it deep or pale? Lots of different colors, obviously, but for simplicity, you can think of lemon for white wines and ruby for reds as kind of your anchor points.
Got it. Visual cues, check. Now let's move on to the nose. I'm guessing it's a bit more nuanced than just fruity or floral.
Absolutely. So the aromas you're going to perceive can be categorized as primary, secondary, or tertiary. Primary aromas, those come straight from the grape itself, or develop during fermentation. Like think of Sauvignon Blanc, classic grassy notes, or a Pinot Noir with those like bright cherry and strawberry aromas.
Okay, so that's the grape's own inherent fragrance. What about secondary?
Secondary aromas develop during the winemaking process, often influenced by techniques like oak aging, for example. So think about like warm vanilla, coconut, toasty spice, things like that.
So that's the winemaker adding another layer there. What about tertiary?
Those emerge over time as the wine matures in the bottle, often called bottle bouquet. And those can include, well, like dried fruit, leather, tobacco, even mushrooms and some aged reds.
Oh, wow. So the wine develops its own personality as it ages.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the appearance, the nose, now the main event, the taste. What are we focusing on?
All right. So there are 8 key characteristics: sweetness, acidity, tannin, alcohol, body, flavor intensity, flavor characteristics, and finish.
Okay, we're breaking it down. Sweetness is pretty straightforward, but what about the others?
Yeah, so think of acidity as that tartness, the zestiness. That kind of makes a wine refreshing. Tannins, those are those drying sensations you get, especially prominent in red wines. They give structure. Alcohol contributed to the warmth and body of the wine. Body refers to the overall weight and texture. Is it light and delicate or full and rich? Flavor intensity? Well, that's how powerful the flavors are, right? And flavor characteristics are the specific aromas and flavors you're detecting, like those fruity, floral, spicy notes we talked about. And finally, the finish is the lasting impression the wine leaves. Short and fleeting or long and lingering.
There's a lot to consider. It's amazing how they all work together to create that unique character for each wine.
Yeah. And here's a fun fact. Food pairings, they can actually change how we perceive these characteristics.
Really? How so?
Well, like for example, salty foods paired with those high acid wines. Salt actually reduces how we perceive that tartness, so the wine's fruit flavors become more prominent. That's why something like a salty blue cheese can be such a delicious pairing with a high acid Sauvignon Blanc. The saltiness of the cheese tames that acidity and brings out the fruit.
Wow, so understanding food pairings can really enhance the whole experience.
It can. It's finding those combinations where they work together, the food and wine complementing each other and enhancing the enjoyment.
Okay, before we get lost in the tasting, we should talk about storing those wines properly. Don't want to spoil those precious bottles.
Right. You got to think of wine kind of like a living thing, evolving over time. And that environment you store it in, that plays a big role in preserving the quality.
Okay, so what are those golden rules for keeping our bottles happy?
3 key things: temperature, light, and position. So ideally, store wine in a cool, dark place with a consistent temperature. Extremes, fluctuations, those can damage the wine. Avoid those warm places, attics, new heat sources, things like that.
Okay, so cool and consistent. What about light?
Light, especially direct sunlight, that can cause premature aging and unwanted chemical reactions. So keep it dark, away from sunlight or even artificial light sources. And then finally, the position. So for bottles with a cork, store them on their sides. Keeps that cork moist, prevents it from drying out. If it dries out, air can seep in, and that'll lead to oxidation.
Cool. Dark and sideways. Got it.
Mhm.
What about serving temperature? Does it really matter if it's a few degrees off?
It can. Serving temperature has a big impact on how the wine expresses itself. You want those aromas and flavors to shine. So, for instance, sparkling wines, serve those well-chilled 6 to 10 degrees Celsius to emphasize the refreshing acidity in those bubbles. But for a full-bodied white, you'd serve it to slightly warmer, maybe 10 to 13 degrees Celsius. Let those richer aromas and flavors unfold.
So there's a sweet spot for each type of wine then. What about reds?
Light-bodied reds, those can be served lightly chilled, or at a cool room temperature, 13 to 18 degrees Celsius. Medium to full-bodied reds, you'll want to let them warm up a bit more, 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. Really let those complex aromas come out.
So room temperature for wine is a little bit of a misnomer. It's a cool room temperature.
Yeah, exactly. And while we're talking about serving, let's not forget glassware. The shape of the glass can actually make a difference.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. How so?
Well, that bowl shape is designed to concentrate those aromas so you get the full bouquet. Red wine glasses, they're typically larger than white wine glasses to give those complex aromas more space.
So the right glass is like a secret weapon for amplifying the aroma.
Exactly. It's all those little details that elevate the whole experience.
Now, what about after we open the bottle? Any tricks to keep it fresh?
Refrigeration. That's your simplest and most effective method for most wines, especially whites and rosés. Slows down that oxidation process. And then for those who want to get a bit more technical, there are vacuum systems, those remove the air, and inert gas systems that replace it with something like nitrogen. Both of those help prevent oxidation.
Pretty clever. We're going all out to keep our wine in good condition, but sometimes, even with all that, a bottle is just off. Let's talk about those dreaded wine faults. How can we identify a bad bottle?
It's important to remember that not all flaws are actually bad, like a little oxidation that can add complexity to certain wines, especially those meant for aging. But some faults can ruin a wine.
Like cork taint. That's the one everyone always mentions. What is it exactly?
Cork taint comes from a compound called TCA, short for trichloroanisole. Develops in the cork itself and leaches into the wine, giving it a musty, damp, cardboard kind of aroma. Pretty unmistakable.
Ugh, not very appealing. And what about oxygen exposure? Can that be a problem too?
Definitely. Unwanted oxygen exposure, beyond what's intended during winemaking, that can have a negative effect. It can make the color deeper, shift the aromas towards like honey, caramel, even coffee. But the main thing is that lack of freshness and fruitiness. The wine just tastes kind of dull.
So those are the two big ones to look out for.
Okay, now let's shift gears and dive into something else. Grape formation and ripening. I mean, it's amazing how those little grapes transform into such complex and flavorful wines.
Right. So let's walk through that life cycle of a grapevine. It all starts in the spring with bud break, where new shoots emerge, followed by leaves, and then those flowers, which will eventually become the grapes. Summer comes along, the flowers get pollinated, mainly by the wind, which leads to fruit set, where those tiny green grapes start forming.
So it's a slow, gradual process. Bud to flower to berry.
It is. Then, as summer turns into autumn, we get to this magical moment called veraison.
Veraison. Heard the term, but never really knew what it meant. Veraison is when those grapes change color and start ripening. That visual indicator that they're transforming. For red grapes, the color shifts from green to red or black, and white grapes go from green to a golden yellow.
Wow, nature is amazing.
Right. And it's not just visual. That's when the grapes start accumulating sugars and the acidity levels decrease. It's about finding that balance between sugar and acidity, which ultimately shapes the style and quality of the wine.
So veraison kicks off ripening. What happens next?
In that final ripening stage, those grapes, they keep swelling up with water, sugar content goes way up while the acidity continues to drop. The winemaker is keeping a close eye on all of this, considering things like the weather, the grape variety, the style of wine they're aiming for, to decide when it's the perfect time to harvest.
It's incredible how much goes into growing those grapes. And once they're harvested, the real magic starts. Winemaking.
Right. So first up, alcoholic fermentation. That's where the yeast converts the sugar in the grape juice into alcohol and carbon dioxide, gives the wine its alcoholic content.
So yeast is the unsung hero here. And what about those fermentation vessels? Do they play a role in the final flavor?
They do. There are different types, each with its own characteristics and influence on the wine. Stainless steel tanks, for example, those are considered inert vessels.
Inert. What does that mean?
It means they don't add any extra flavors. They're neutral. Think of them like a blank canvas, letting those pure fruit flavors come through. Great for preserving that fresh, vibrant character in many whites and lighter-bodied reds.
So stainless steel is about purity then. What about other types?
Concrete tanks, those are considered inert as well, but they offer a little temperature regulation because of that porous nature of concrete. And then there's oak.
Oh, oak. That's
Mhm.
where we get those rich, toasty flavors.
You got it. Oak barrels, those aren't inert. They interact with the wine, adding a whole other layer of complexity.
How so?
Oak allows for that slow, controlled oxygen exposure, softens the tannins, integrates the flavors, and gives those characteristic vanilla, spice, toasty notes.
So like the type of oak, the size of the barrel, how long it's aged, all that plays a role in the final flavor.
It does. It's a complex interplay that the winemaker is controlling to achieve that style they're aiming for.
Like an artist using oak as their palette.
I like that. Now, beyond oak, there are other techniques that contribute to the final character. Maceration, for example.
Maceration, what's that?
That's where you soak the grape skins in the juice during fermentation. Essential for red wine production because that's where the color, the tannins, a lot of the aromas come from. The longer the maceration, the more intense the color and tannins will be.
So that's how red wines get their color. What happens after maceration?
Then the juice is pressed, separated from the skins and seeds. That's when you separate the free-run juice, the highest quality, from the pressed juice, which can be more tannic.
There's a hierarchy even within the juice. What happens next?
Maturation. That's when the wine is aged, typically in oak barrels, but sometimes in stainless steel or concrete tanks, depending on what they're going for.
And that's where it develops those more complex flavors and aromas we talked about, right?
Exactly. It softens, integrates the components, reaches its full potential. It's like letting it breathe and evolve.
So time is a key ingredient. Anything else that contributes to the final character?
Malolactic conversion. Important, especially for reds and some whites like Chardonnay. It involves converting the tart malic acid into softer lactic acid.
Isn't that what gives some Chardonnays that buttery flavor?
Exactly. Adds those creamy, buttery notes to Chardonnay. And then there's lees aging.
Lee's aging.
Yeah, that's aging the wine on its lees, the dead yeast cells that settle at the bottom.
Dead yeast cells. That doesn't sound very appealing.
I know, but it can be a game changer. It can add richness, texture, sometimes even a biscuity aroma, often used for white wines like Chardonnay and Muscadet, but also some reds.
Wow, who knew? So we've got maceration, pressing, maturation, malolactic conversion, and Lee's aging. Anything else?
Blending, that's where they can blend different grape varieties, wines from different vineyards, or even wines made using different techniques. It's about creating a final wine that's even better than the individual parts.
It's like winemaking is an art form.
Exactly. And all these techniques, from fermentation to maturation to blending, they contribute to that incredible diversity of wine styles we see out there.
Amazing to think about the journey from vine to bottle. All that goes into it.
It is. And speaking of grapes, now's the time to meet those stars of the show, the principal grape varieties. Explore those key characteristics, color, tannins, aromas, flavors, and we'll connect them to specific regions.
I'm ready to dive in. Let's start with those bold black grapes.
All right, first up, Gamay. This grape thrives in the Beaujolais region of France. Think light to medium ruby red, low tannins, high acidity, and those vibrant red cherry raspberry aromas, sometimes even a hint of banana, candied fruit. Beaujolais, Beaujolais villages, even those Beaujolais crus like Fleury, those will come to mind.
Beaujolais. I love those light reds. Perfect for picnics and casual get-togethers. What's next?
Let's head to warmer climates, meet Grenache or Garnacha in Spain. This one's versatile, produces a range of styles, but often it's those full-bodied, fruit-forward wines with moderate tannins and higher alcohol. So picture a deep ruby red with enticing aromas of red berry, plum, often a touch of spice. Grenache really shines in Southern Rhone, the dominant grape in Côte du Rhône, and that iconic Châteauneuf-du-Pape known for its powerful blends. Also find it in Spain's Rioja, Navarra, and Priorat regions. Adds warmth and richness to the wines.
Grenache, a real chameleon of a grape, adapting to different terroirs and winemaking styles. What other black grapes should we know about?
Tempranillo from Spain is a must-know. Medium to full-bodied, medium tannins, good acidity, classic ruby red color. Showcases those captivating aromas of ripe cherry and plum, and then as it ages, those can evolve into leathery tobacco notes. Home is Rioja. You'll find a range of styles there, from fresh, youthful Joven to complex, aged Gran Reserva. Also encounter it in Ribera del Duero, where it makes powerful structured wines and some parts of Catalunya, contributing to still and sparkling wines.
Tempranillo, from youthful to age-worthy. Something for every occasion. Let's keep exploring these black grapes. What else is there?
Let's get into Italian grapes, starting with Nebbiolo. known for its elegance and complexity. Pale garnet red wines, high tannins and acidity, and the aromas, they're really captivating. Roses, tar, truffles, dried cherries, complex tapestry. And Nebbiolo ages beautifully, developing those intricate aromas even further. Home is Piedmont in northwestern Italy. That's where you get those legendary Barolo and Barbaresco wines, renowned for their structure, power, and longevity.
Nebbiolo, the king of Italian grapes. What other Italian gems are we about to uncover?
Next, Barbera, another Italian grape, but this one's a bit lighter, brighter. Ruby red, high acidity, low tannins, and those juicy flavors of cherry, blackberry, and a hint of spice. Barbera is known for being super food friendly, and it's best enjoyed slightly chilled, perfect for pairing with a big Italian meal. You'll find Barbera mainly in Piedmont, specifically in the Barbera d'Asti DOC.
Barbera, that balance of fruit, freshness, and spice. What's next on our Italian adventure?
Sangiovese. This one's the heart and soul of Tuscany. Versatile grape produces a wide range of styles, but typically known for its ruby red color, high acidity, medium tannins, and savory character. So imagine cherry, plum, leather, tobacco, often with a distinct earthiness. Sangiovese ages gracefully, too, developing even more complexity and nuance over time. It's the star grape in Chianti, Chianti Classico, and the prestigious Brunello di Montalcino, all from Tuscany.
Sangiovese, the epitome of Tuscan elegance. Okay, what other Italian beauties are waiting to be discovered?
Let's head to the Veneto region, meet Corvina. This is the primary grape in Valpolicella. Lighter ruby red wines, high acidity, and that unique combination of flavors, cherry, red plum, and sometimes even a hint of bitter almond. Corvina is known for its versatility, too, making wines that range from that fresh, easy-drinking Valpolicella to the powerful Amarone della Valpolicella. That one's made using partially dried grapes, creating a richer, more intense style.
Corvina, a grape that keeps us guessing. From light and fruity to rich and complex, what other black grapes should we try?
Okay, let's go to the Adriatic coast of Italy, meet Montepulciano. This grape thrives in the Abruzzo region. Robust grape, makes deep ruby reds with moderate acidity, high tannins, and intense aromas of blackberry, plum, licorice, known for its rustic charm and ability to age. Mainly found in Abruzzo, particularly the Montepulciano d'Abruzzo DOC, producing some of Italy's most affordable red wines.
Montepulciano, a taste of Italy's rustic beauty. Okay, what's next?
Now we're hopping across the globe to California, Zinfandel. Fascinating history and a penchant for boldness. This one is uniquely Californian. Deep ruby red, high alcohol, full body, and those signature jammy, spicy flavors. Blackberries, plums, even black pepper, all wrapped up in a velvety texture. Zinfandel's known for its ripe fruit and its ability to make both dry and sweet wines, from easy drinking to age-worthy.
Zinfandel, the bold and beautiful of California wines. What a journey through those black grapes. Definitely feeling a little thirsty, but before we pop open a bottle, let's switch gears to those elegant, refreshing white grape varieties. What awaits us in the world of white wines?
White wines, all about that crisp acidity, delicate aromas, refreshing flavors. So let's start with Chenin Blanc. Thrives in a variety of climates, expresses itself in a multitude of styles, from bone-dried, lusciously sweet, very versatile, and can age beautifully.
Chenin Blanc, a white grape for all seasons.
Yeah.
So what should we expect?
Well, picture a pale yellow wine with high acidity. The aromas can range from green apple, pear, to honey, tropical fruit, delicate florals. You'll find Chenin Blanc in the Loire Valley of France. Vouvray is a key appellation, makes a stunning array of styles. And South Africa, Chenin Blanc has found a second home there, often labeled Old Vine, producing wines with concentrated flavors of tropical fruit and sometimes even notes of oak, smoke, vanilla.
Old Vine Chenin Blanc, a taste of South Africa's history. What other white grapes should we add to the list?
Semillon, sometimes spelled Semillon. This one can make wines that range from dry and crisp to rich and honeyed. Picture a pale yellow with moderate acidity. The aromas are intriguing: citrus, apple to honey, and lanolin. That's a waxy note, often found in aged Semillon. Ages gracefully, too, developing nutty, toasty, honeyed notes over time. You'll find it in Bordeaux, often blended with Sauvignon Blanc, and also in Australia, Hunter Valley, Barossa Valley.
Semillon, keeping us guessing. Crisp and citrusy to rich and honeyed. What else should we know?
Let's travel to northern Rhone, meet Viognier, known for its aromatic intensity and rich texture. Pale to deep yellow, low acidity, full-bodied. It has this intoxicating bouquet of apricot, peach, honeysuckle, even a little spice and honey, often described as perfumey and best enjoyed young. Condrieu, that's its most famous home, nestled in those steep slopes of the northern Rhone, produces some of the most sought-after Viognier wines in the world.
Viognier, definitely an alluring grape. What's next?
Let's go to Alsace. Explore Gewürztraminer, A grape with a name as exotic as its aromas. Pale to deep yellow, low acidity, full-bodied, and just this explosion of lychee, rose petals, ginger. Known for its intensely aromatic character, its full body, and can be both dry and off-dry styles. It thrives in Alsace's unique climate and terroir, making wines with incredible depth.
Gewürztraminer, definitely hard to forget. What else is there to discover?
Let's travel to Italy, Marche region. Explore Verdicchio, known for its crisp acidity, minerality, and subtle fruit flavors. Picture a pale straw color, high acidity, light to medium body, and aromas of green apple, lemon, almond, a touch of herbs, often described as steely or flinty. Best enjoyed young. Verdicchio de Castelli di Gessi, DOC, that's its most famous home, in the rolling hills of the Marche region, producing some of Italy's most characterful white wines.
Verdicchio, the taste of Italy's coast. I do love a crisp, mineral white wine. What's next on the journey?
Let's stay in Italy, head to Piedmont this time, Cortese. This is the grape behind those refreshing Gavi wines. Picture a pale straw color, high acidity, light to medium body, and those delicate aromas of green apple, pear, citrus, and a hint of herbs and minerals. Cortese is known for its delicate character, vibrant acidity, and it pairs beautifully with seafood.
Cortese, the perfect pairing for a seaside dinner. What other Italian white grapes are we missing?
Let's head south to Campania, meet Fiano. This one's known for its complex aromas, rich texture, and its aging potential. Pale to medium yellow, moderate acidity, medium to full body, and that intriguing array of aromas, hazelnut, honey, herbs, hint of spice, often described as nutty or waxy, and can develop even more complex honeyed and toasty notes as it ages.
Fiano, another Italian white that defies expectations. Sounds like one that can be enjoyed young or aged. What's next?
Okay, now we're going to Spain's northwestern coast. Discover Albariño. This grape is making waves in the wine world. Pale lemon color, high acidity, light to medium body, and those refreshing aromas of grapefruit, lemon, peach, a hint of floral and mineral notes. It's known for being refreshing and pairing well with seafood, especially those fresh catches from the Galician coast, mostly found in Rías Baixas, Galicia, where it thrives in that cool Atlantic climate.
Albariño, a taste of Spain's coast. Perfect for a sunny afternoon by the sea. Okay, what's the final stop on this white grape adventure?
Ferment. Most famous for those lusciously sweet Tokaji wines of Hungary, but it can also make dry and off-dry styles. Imagine a pale to medium yellow, high acidity and aromas ranging from apricot, honey, to citrus, nuts, spices. Ferment is a real chameleon, bone-dry to intensely sweet.
Ferment, a wine chameleon. Wow, what an incredible journey through the world of white grapes. Feels like we've just scratched the surface, though.
We have. There's so much more to explore, but let's focus on one of the most popular and widely planted white grapes in the world, Chardonnay. This one thrives in a wide range of climates. Cool to warm, can be made into so many styles, crisp and unoaked to rich and buttery.
Chardonnay, the queen of white grapes. What should we expect when we see a Chardonnay?
Well, Chardonnay's personality depends a lot on the climate. In cool climates, like Chablis and Burgundy, it showcases green fruit flavors like apple, pear, along with citrus notes and a distinct minerality. Those wines are typically unoaked, showcasing the pure expression of the grape. Moderate climates, the flavors shift more towards ripe citrus, stone fruit like peach, maybe a little tropical fruit. Often you'll see some oak influence there. And warmer climates, think California, Australia, you'll find fuller-bodied Chardonnays with more pronounced stone fruit, tropical fruit, sometimes even a hint of vanilla and spice from oak aging.
So climate is a huge factor. What about those winemaking techniques? How do those play into Chardonnay's style?
They're just as important. Malolactic conversion, lees contact, oak fermentation, oak maturation, those can all drastically change the flavor profile.
Malolactic conversion, that's what gives some of the Chardonnays that buttery smoothness, right? And Lee's aging adds that richness and complexity. Oak fermentation and oak maturation, what about those?
Oak fermentation means the wine ferments in oak barrels, while oak maturation happens after fermentation. Both can give those vanilla, toast, spice flavors and also add tannin structure. The type of oak, the toast level, how long the wine spends in the barrel, that all affects the final flavor.
So Chardonnay is kind of a blank canvas for winemakers. They can really play with the techniques to get different styles, from lean and mineral to rich and buttery. And what about those Chardonnays that are labeled unoaked or unwooded?
Those are Chardonnays that haven't seen any oak aging, so they're going to express those pure fruit characteristics, no oak influence.
Makes sense. And aging, how does that affect Chardonnay? What kind of flavors develop?
Aged Chardonnays can develop some really beautiful aromas like hazelnut, mushroom, even a hint of honey. Adds another layer of complexity.
So Chardonnay really can run the gamut, fresh and fruity to rich and complex. Okay, let's talk about some specific regions where Chardonnay really shines. Burgundy is famous for it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Burgundy is considered Chardonnay's spiritual home, renowned for those complex terroir-driven wines, and Chardonnay thrives in its climate. Within Burgundy, there are several key regions to know, each with its own distinct style.
I've heard of Chablis, Côte d'Or, Mâconnais, and the south of France in relation to Chardonnay. Can we break those down?
Yeah, so Chablis, in the northernmost part of Burgundy, is known for those lean, mineral-driven Chardonnays. High acidity, aromas of green apples, citrus, flint. That cool climate and the Kimmeridgian soil, its rich in fossilized seashells, contributes to that minerality. These wines are typically unoaked, showcasing the pure expression of the grape and the terroir.
Chablis, the ultimate expression of cool climate Chardonnay. What about Côte d'Or?
Côte d'Or, known for its prestigious vineyards and world-renowned wines, it produces both whites and reds. But the Chardonnays are particularly celebrated. Rolling hills, varied exposures, they create a tapestry of microclimates, which means a wide range of styles. You'll find richer, more complex expressions than in Chablis, flavors of ripe citrus, stone fruit, sometimes tropical notes, often with oak influence.
The Côte d'Or, where Chardonnay achieves elegance and complexity. What about Mâconnais? What can we expect from Chardonnays from that region?
Mâconnais, that's south of the Côte d'Or, known for its more approachable, fruit-forward Chardonnays. Climate's a bit warmer there, so you get wines with flavors of ripe citrus, stone fruit, melon. They're often unoaked or lightly oaked, great for a fresher style.
Mâconnais, easy drinking Chardonnay. And what about Chardonnay from the south of France?
The south of France, with that warm Mediterranean climate, produces fuller-bodied Chardonnays. Ripe fruit flavors, peach, pineapple, banana, softer acidity, and sometimes aged in oak, adding that richness and complexity.
So from those lean mineral Chablis to the rich, ripe expressions of the south of France, Burgundy really does offer a Chardonnay for everyone.
It does. There's something for every palate in Burgundy. And don't forget about California, another region that does Chardonnay really well.
Ah, California Chardonnay, often known for that buttery, oaky style, right?
That's a classic style, yeah. But you'll also find more and more California winemakers going for a more restrained, balanced approach these days, producing Chardonnays with fresh fruit, vibrant acidity, more subtle oak.
So California Chardonnay is evolving. What about other regions where it's gaining traction?
Australia, New Zealand, Chile, South Africa, they're all making exciting Chardonnays, each with their own regional character.
Chardonnay truly is a global grape. Okay, what other white grape varieties should we explore?
Pinot Grigio and Pinot Gris. Actually, two names for the same grape, but they often represent two different styles of wine.
Same grape, different styles. How does that work?
Sure. Well, in Italy, where it's Pinot Grigio, you usually get light, crisp, refreshing wines. High acidity, aromas of green apple, lemon, pear. Think of Del Venezia DOC. That's in northeastern Italy, known for making some of the most popular Pinot Grigio. But in Alsace, where it's Pinot Gris, it's totally different.
So same grape, different personality. What's special about Pinot Gris from Alsace?
Alsace Pinot Gris is richer, fuller-bodied, often with a touch of spice, lower acidity, aromas of ripe pear, honey, ginger, and the best ones can age beautifully.
Pinot Gris, light and crisp to rich and complex. What else is on our list?
Riesling. This one is celebrated for its versatility, its ability to age, and its expression of terroir. Riesling can go from bone dry to super sweet, always with that high acidity to balance the sweetness.
Riesling. I know it can be dry or sweet, but what else should we know?
Riesling is incredibly aromatic. You get aromas of citrus, stone fruit, honey, and sometimes even that distinctive petrol note that develops with age. It really reflects where it's grown, expressing the soil, the climate.
So terroir-driven, where should we look for Riesling?
Germany. That's considered Riesling's home. It thrives in that cool climate and expresses itself differently in each region. Mosel, Rheingau, and Pfalz are three key regions.
Germany, the land of Riesling. What are the key differences between those regions?
Moselle, with those steep slate slopes, produces the lightest-bodied Rieslings, delicate fruit, floral aromas, and a pronounced minerality, often with a touch of sweetness balanced by that acidity.
Mosel Riesling, elegant and mineral. What about Rheingau?
Rheingau, south-facing slopes, lots of sunlight, fuller-bodied Rieslings, wider range of sweetness levels, more pronounced stone fruit, hint of spice.
Rheingau Riesling, a bit bolder. What about Pfalz?
Pfalz, you can think of it as a continuation of Alsace, warmer climate than Mosel and Rheingau. Dry, full-bodied Rieslings, ripe fruit, Floral aromas, a touch of spice, more fruit-forward, rounder texture than the cooler regions.
Pfalz Riesling, bridging the gap between Germany and France. What about Alsace? They make Riesling there too, right?
They do. Alsace Riesling, typically dry, full-bodied, very aromatic, flavors of ripe citrus, stone fruit, blossom. The best ones come from those Grand Cru vineyards. And you might also see late harvest wines labeled Vendange Tardives, which are sweet and concentrated.
Alsace Riesling, a real powerhouse. And outside of Germany and France, where else should we look?
Australia, Austria, both are producing excellent Rieslings. In Australia, Clare. In Australia, Clare Valley and Eden Valley are known for those dry, aromatic Rieslings, citrus floral, mineral notes, often with a steely acidity. And Austria, cool climate, diverse terroirs, known for its dry, elegant Rieslings, pronounced minerality, vibrant acidity.
Riesling, definitely a cool climate grape. Okay, what other white grapes are we missing?
Let's circle back to Chenin Blanc for a minute. Explore two specific regions where it excels. Vouvray, that's in the Loire Valley of France, and South Africa.
Sounds good. We talk about how versatile Chenin Blanc is, so what can we expect from Vouvray?
Well, Vouvray is a region where Chenin Blanc really shows off its range. Sparkling wines, dry, off-dry, sweet, still wines. It's all about the balance between the sugar and the acidity, something those winemakers in Vouvray have mastered.
So we can find a Vouvray for every taste. What are some of the flavor profiles we might come across?
Okay, so dry Vouvray often has flavors of fresh apples, citrus, a little honey, and a steely minerality reflecting those limestone soils. As the wines age, you can get those complex aromas of quince, beeswax, ginger, off-dry Vouvray, a touch of residual sugar, a lovely balance of fruit, sweetness, and acidity, flavors of ripe pear, apricot, honey, and then sweet Vouvray, demi-sec to Molieu, that's a real treat. Luscious flavors of candied fruit, honey, spices, and incredibly deep and complex.
Vouvray, where Chenin Blanc really shines. What about South Africa? I know they make a lot of Chenin Blanc there.
South Africa has really embraced Chenin Blanc. It's become one of their signature grapes, and their old vines are producing some truly exciting wines.
Old vines, what's so special about those?
Well, old vines, typically we're talking over 35 years old, they have these deep root systems. They can access nutrients and water deep in the soil, so you get lower yields, but more concentrated flavors.
Like, those old vines are the wise ones, making small batches of intense fruit. What can we expect from South African Chenin Blanc?
Wide range of styles, from crisp and dry to rich and honeyed. The dry wines often have aromas of green apple, quince, chamomile, distinct minerality. And then as they age, they can develop those honey, beeswax, ginger notes that we often find in aged Chenin Blanc. The off-dry and sweet wines are fantastic, showcasing tropical fruits like pineapple, mango, often with hints of honey and spice. And some producers are even experimenting with oak aging, which adds another layer of complexity. Things like vanilla, toast, spice.
South African Chenin Blanc, a taste of their history. Seems like Chenin Blanc can be just as versatile as Chardonnay.
Absolutely. Both grapes are capable of making a huge range of styles.
What other white grape varieties should we explore?
Let's head back to France and revisit Semillon. We talked about its role in Bordeaux blends, but now let's focus on its solo performance in Sauternes and also that unique expression in Australia's Hunter Valley.
Sauternes, the legendary sweet wine. What makes Semillon so special there?
Sauternes is all about botrytis, or noble rot. It's a fungus, but a beneficial one that develops on those grapes under certain conditions.
Noble rot. Fungus beneficial. That sounds a bit counterintuitive.
I know, right? But under the right circumstances, botrytis can work wonders. It concentrates the sugars and flavors, adds complexity to the wine.
Okay, so how does that work?
So Botrytis cinerea, that's the fungus, thrives in those humid mornings and warm, dry afternoons. Pierces the grape skins, water evaporates, and all that sugar and flavor gets concentrated in the juice.
So it's this balance of humidity and warmth that creates those perfect conditions.
It is, and Semillon is especially susceptible to botrytis. When it happens, the grapes shrivel like raisins, the juice gets super concentrated, and you get those lusciously sweet, complex wines. Think apricot, honey, ginger, saffron, all woven together with this vibrant acidity that keeps it balanced.
Sounds divine. What about Semillon in Australia? I hear Hunter Valley Semillon is pretty unique.
It is. It's kind of an anomaly in the wine world. When it's young, it's typically dry, austere, almost neutral in flavor. Aromas of lemon, green apple, grass might not seem like much, but with age, oh, it transforms.
A transformation. What happens?
As Hunter Valley Semillon ages, it develops incredible complexity. You get aromas of toast, honey, lanolin, lime. It's a wine that really rewards patience, can age for decades, becoming more and more nuanced over time.
Hunter Valley Semillon, definitely one to cellar. Okay, What other white grape varieties are we missing?
Let's go to Hungary. Explore ferment. This grape is synonymous with those legendary Tokaji wines. Wine of kings, king of wines, that's what they call it.
Caucasia Zoo. I've always been curious about those. What makes ferment so special there?
Tokaji that's another example of that botrytis magic. Ferment is highly susceptible to noble rot, and they carefully harvest those botrytis-affected grapes. They use them to produce these incredibly sweet, concentrated wines with, again, that vibrant acidity to balance it all out.
So it's like sauternes using botrytis to create those intensely sweet flavors.
Right, but Tokaji has its own unique character. Often those notes of apricot, honey, orange peel, ginger, saffron, and the wines have different sweetness levels indicated by the number of putonios. Higher putonios means more sweetness.
Tokaji Zoo. Truly unique. What other white grapes are out there?
Let's finish our white grape tour with a quick look at Sauvignon Blanc, celebrated for its zesty acidity and vibrant aromas.
Sauvignon Blanc. One of my favorites for a crisp white. Key characteristics.
High acidity, light to medium body, and that range of aromas and flavors, from grassy, herbaceous to citrusy and tropical, gooseberry, passion fruit, grapefruit, lime, even little boxwood sometimes.
So Sauvignon Blanc can be quite diverse then. What regions should we be looking for?
Loire Valley of France, specifically Sancerre and Puy-Fumé, known for those elegant, mineral-driven Sauvignon Blancs, often with a flinty minerality, aromas of gooseberry, citrus, herbs.
Loire Sauvignon Blanc, a classic. What other regions are known for it?
New Zealand, specifically Marlborough, becomes synonymous with Sauvignon Blanc. Those intensely aromatic, fruit-forward wines bursting with passion fruit, grapefruit, gooseberry, they can be quite pungent with that vibrant acidity.
Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, always a crowd pleaser. Any other regions?
Bordeaux. People don't always think of Sauvignon Blanc from Bordeaux, but they produce both dry and sweet wines from this grape, often blended with Semillon. The dry wines, they can be quite herbaceous, aromas of grass, grapefruit, lime. The sweet wines, those are those luscious, complex ones, layers of apricot, honey, spice, like the ones from Barsac and Sauternes.
Sauvignon Blanc, elegant and exuberantly fruity. Wow, what a tour of the grape varieties. I feel like I've learned so much.
You've got a solid foundation now. Grape characteristics, tasting techniques, key regions. But there's one more important element to wine: labeling terms. Understanding how they're labeled can give you those clues about the style, the quality, the origin.
Labeling terms, the secret code. What should we look for?
Let's start with those geographical indications, GIs. They link a wine to its place of origin, often with rules about the grape varieties, growing methods, winemaking. In the European Union, you'll see PDOs and PGIs, protected designation of origin and protected geographical indication.
PDO, PGI, it can be a bit confusing. What's the difference?
PDOs, those are the stricter ones, guarantee the wines from a specific area and follow strict rules. Permitted grape varieties, vineyard practices, winemaking techniques. It's a mark of authenticity and quality. PGIs, those are a bit more flexible, wider geographical area, and less strict rules.
So PDOs are like the gold standard in Europe. What about specific countries? France, Italy, Spain, Germany. How do they use those GIs?
Each country has its own system, often with different levels of classification. France, they have their AOCs, AOPs, IGPs, Appellation d'origine contrôlée, Appellation d'origine protégée, and Indication géographique protégée. Italy uses DOCGs, DOCs, IGTs, Denominazione d'origine controllata e garantita, Denominazione d'origine controllata, Indicazione geografica tipica. Spain has DOCAS, DOs, Vinos de la Tierra, Denominación de Origen Calificada, Denominación de Origin, Wines of the Land. Germany has its Qualitätswein and Prädikatswein, which classify wines based on ripeness and quality.
Wow, so much history and tradition in those labels, each system reflecting that country's unique winemaking heritage. What about outside the EU? How are wines labeled there?
Outside the EU, you'll find a variety of systems, each with its own designations and rules. The US, there are AVAs, American viticultural areas. South Africa uses a wine of origin system, WO. Australia has its own geographical indications as well.
So no matter where we are, we can look for those labeling terms to get an idea of where a wine comes from. What other labeling terms should we be aware of?
Things related to vine age, grape growing options, old vine or vieille vigne, that indicates the wines made from older vines, usually means lower yields, more concentrated, flavorful grapes.
Old vines, another sign of quality. What about those grape growing options?
Sustainable, organic, and biodynamic, those point to environmentally friendly practices. Vintage indicates the year those grapes were harvested, so you can get an idea of the weather conditions that year. Late harvest, or vendanges tardives, that means they pick those grapes later, higher sugar levels, often for sweet wines.
Late harvest, a little extra sunshine in the bottle.
Hmm.
What else should we watch for?
Botrytis, or noble rot, indicates those beneficial fungi concentrating sugars, flavors for those lusciously sweet wines. Ice wine, or Eiswein, means frozen grapes, makes those incredibly sweet and concentrated wines.
Iceline, liquid gold, any region-specific terms. I know Burgundy and Germany have some special designations.
You're right. Burgundy, those Premier Cru and Grand Cru terms, those designate specific vineyards that are known for their quality and terroir. Premier Cru vineyards, a step above the village level wines, and Grand Cru, those are the most prestigious, producing some of the most sought after wines.
Premier Cru, Grand Cru, the best of Burgundy. What about Germany?
Germany has its Prädikatswein system, classifies wines based on the ripeness of those grapes at harvest. Cabernet, Spätlese, Auslese, Beerenauslese, Trockenbeerenauslese, and Eiswein.
Prädikatswein is all about ripeness. What can we expect at each level?
Cabinet wines, usually light, dry, or off-dry, delicate fruit. Spätlese, a bit richer, more pronounced fruit, wider range of sweetness. Auslese, even richer and sweeter, honeyed notes. Beerenauslese, lusciously sweet, made from those Botrytis-affected berries. Trockenbeerenauslese, incredibly rare and intensely sweet, made from those shriveled Botrytis-affected berries. And Eiswein, we talked about that one, frozen grapes, super sweet, concentrated wines.
Prädikatswein, a fascinating system. So we've got a good grasp of grape varieties, winemaking, key regions, and labeling terms. We're practically pros now.
You've got a great foundation. But remember, wine is a journey, not a destination. Enjoy exploring, discovering, and of course, enjoying a glass of wine.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And thank you for guiding us on this deep dive into the world of wine. Okay, I feel like I just aced Wine Tasting 101. But like, practically speaking, when I'm at the store or looking at a wine list, what are the key things I can use to pick a good bottle?
That wine label, that's your guide. First, check if they list the grape variety. Knowing what the grapes usually like gives you a starting point.
Right, so if I see Sauvignon Blanc, I'm thinking crisp, zesty, maybe grassy, citrusy. What if the grape isn't listed?
Then look at the region. That's going to tell you a lot about the climate, the soil, the winemaking style, all that stuff.
Okay, so like Burgundy, I'm thinking elegance, complexity, maybe some earthy notes, a bit of oak. What if I don't recognize the region?
That's when your knowledge of those key grapes comes in. A lot of regions are known for specific grapes. Like if you see a wine from Mendoza, Argentina, good chance it's a Malbec.
Ah, right, there's
Yep.
like a puzzle. Use the grape and the region to figure out the style. What about those quality level designations?
Yeah, those can be great indicators, like the ones we talked about in Burgundy and Germany. Burgundy, look for those Premier Cru, Grand Cru, the highest quality. Germany, that Prädikatswein system tells you about ripeness, sweetness, intensity.
So Premier Cru, Grand Cru, and the Prädikatswein levels, all signs of high quality. Any other labeling terms that can help me out?
Look for terms that tell you about the winemaking. Oak aged, barrel fermented, that means oak was used, adds complexity, vanilla, spice, toast, that sort of thing. Malolactic fermentation, might have softer acidity, even a creamy texture. Terms like unfiltered, natural, those point towards a minimalist approach.
It's incredible how much info they cram onto those labels. I feel much more prepared to decipher them now.
They're like a roadmap guiding you towards a wine story. With what you know now, you can confidently navigate that map and discover all sorts of amazing wines.
This has been an amazing journey through the world of wine. Any final words of wisdom?
Just remember to enjoy it. Explore, try new things, and trust your palate. There's a whole world of flavors and aromas out there, and the best way to learn is to just keep tasting, experimenting, and sharing those discoveries with others.
Perfectly said. Thank you for being our guide on this incredible journey through the world of wine. To our listener, cheers to your continued exploration. May your glass always be full of delicious discoveries. We'll see you next time for another adventure in knowledge and exploration.